is going to stop recruiting international healthcare staff, and local candidates are going to get more preference as compared to international candidates. This kind of rumors have been floating around for the longest time and especially gotten much worse over the last few months. But in today's video, as somebody who works in the NHS, I'm going to try and debunk them for you guys so that you get a little bit more knowledge and understanding about what is a ground reality when you are considering to apply for jobs in the UK. But before we move ahead, my name is Nikita and I make videos about living in the UK, working as a healthcare professional, landing your dream roles and building your finances. And if any of this is of interest to you, do not forget to subscribe to me on YouTube, but also follow me on Instagram. My handle is Physiotherapy in UK. And before we move ahead, I just wanted to let you know that I myself am a physiotherapist working in the NHS, and all of the viewpoints that I share over here right now are things that I have personally done a little bit of research on, but are things that I've personally noticed while living over here. So feel free to share any contrasting views or opinions in the comments below. But let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to absolutely talk about is budget cuts in the UK and how it is impacting jobs. Now, for those of you all who do not know, there have been severe budget cuts in the NHS where the NHS is not receiving as much funding from the government as they would like. Now, if you do not know this already, then the NHS is the National Health Service that is funded primarily by the government. So any budget cuts made by the government will directly impact the number of staff recruited within the healthcare system, that is the NHS. Now, the problem that is coming up over here is because of these budget cuts, a lot of people are not realizing that the number of vacancies are actually going down because there is lack of funding to support these roles. Now, what this also means is that there is another problem that is coming up right now. So if you would have not heard about this, I'll put up a few articles in the description below. But there are several people, so several different healthcare professionals, including doctors, nurses, allied healthcare professionals, who are leaving the UK and migrating to other countries, which might be Australia, New Zealand, or even Dubai. Now, the reason for them to do that is obviously their own, but it could be related to better pay, but also better lifestyle, and obviously the lack of opportunities in UK. Now, because of this movement or this trend of them moving abroad, you would think that there would be more vacancies in the UK, right? But that is not the case. What is happening is because of these budget cuts, the team leaders and the senior executives within the trust are not advertising these roles. So that just means that they are expecting teams to stay within the limited budget and stay within their limited expertise and pick up these responsibilities. Now, that doesn't mean that the people who are here already are actually being abused. It's that they are upscaling staff who are already present in the UK and retaining them as experienced healthcare professionals. So what that just goes on to say is that yes, these budget cuts are meaning that there are lesser job opportunities or life openings coming up in the UK generally. Now let's come to the second question, which again gets flooded in my DMs most often, is why am I not getting selected for the role? Now, again, for this, you've got to remember two things. Firstly, even people who are in the UK right now, so people who have graduated from universities in the UK, are coming up to me and saying that there are lesser job opportunities as what they've seen in the last year or the year before that. That just means that the number of live open vacancies have gone down. But the second reason why it's getting really hard for international candidates to land roles is the higher levels of competition. So over the last couple of years, HCPC has noted record high numbers in the number of international applicants making registration in the UK. What that just means is that now, for the limited number of roles that are coming out, there are not only domestic candidates, so candidates who already studied in the UK, but also international candidates. So these are not international students. They might be people who are in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Turkey, etc., having HCPC registration and trying to apply for these roles. Now, what that just means is that for a single job, you are looking at 3 times or 5 times that extra competition. And that just means that if you are not top of the game, you are not going to be selected for an interview. Now, again, a lot of people come to me saying, Nikita, but I have 8 years of experience. I have 5 years of experience, and I'm still not landing interviews. When you have loads of experience, and if you are somebody who's even starting out as a fresher, any experience that you have needs to be put forward in a very systematic, organized manner that is looking more or less like the UK standards, what employers are looking for. Because any experience that you have which you think you're writing in a relevant way but is not suitable from an NHS or a UK perspective is not going to be considered over here. Now, to be honest, let me give you a bit of an example. A lot of people will say that I have done my bachelor's or I have done my master's from this top rated university back in my home country. Well, that is a great thing to have. Obviously, it is. But people in the UK are not even going to Google that university. So they honestly don't care about whether it was a top rate university or a low tier university. This is just a kind of information that goes on to say that if you do have clinical experience and you're not presenting it the right way, it really is not going to create any impact. Now, if you are interested in making your job applications much more better and clearer and based on UK standards, feel free to book a one-to-one session with me where we can go through your application, review it, give you additional tips on how you can systematically upgrade your application to UK standards. And lastly, coming down to one of the final questions that I want to address in this particular video is a lot of people are reaching out to me, and recently someone reached out to me saying, is there a chance that the UK employers, so NHS employers, are actually looking to only recruit domestic, that is people who are trained locally, and are not recruiting international staff? This is almost in a way to go on to say there's a bit of a bias where they are not ready to recruit international staff. Now again, if you consider this in the broader context of the visa changes and the sponsorship changes, I want to remind you that in the last few months, the cost for sponsoring an individual has gone up. The cost for several other visa categories have gone up. However, you've got to remember that the NHS is still offering visas under the health and care visa if you are under the clinical role. Now, this not only includes doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, ODPs, radiographers, lab technicians, etc. There are so many other different healthcare professionals included under the health and care visa. And again, if you want more information about it, I'll leave the link for that in the description below, so feel free to check that out. But what I want to go on and say over here is that while the NHS is having budget cuts, it does realize that internationally trained healthcare professionals can be a key asset in providing good quality care to most NHS trusts, if not all. Now, what this just goes on to say is that if you are a good candidate and if you are able to demonstrate your skills and your experience, not only at the job application stage, but also at the interview stage, then there are very high chances of you being selected for that particular role. From an employer or a recruitment point of view, I don't think that the bias is coming in that, this person is an internationally trained staff and that is why they are not good enough or they are not appropriate for this particular role. However, UK employers are concerned about whether internationally trained healthcare staff can meet the ever-evolving and changing demands of the UK healthcare system. That just goes on to say that in your interviews and in your job applications, you've got to make sure that you provide them with confidence, that you are not only going to be able to match the duties and responsibilities that are asked of you, but go above and beyond what is being asked. And again, in terms of that, what you've got to do is you've got to remember that in an interview in the NHS, every single candidate is being asked the same questions that you are being asked. However, there can be very minor differences, and sometimes those differences are the nuances or the sort of integrities that are being used in the NHS, which you as an overseas candidate might not know. And that just means that you are missing out on those key important points or marks in those interviews, which makes you second or third best and means that you're not landing the job. Now, again, the problem with that is not you because you don't have that experience. The problem over there is that you've not explored enough to understand what are these finer nuances in the NHS or within the system where you are looking to gain employment. Now, in the past, people obviously would have gained employment just based on their clinical skills. But now, as the competition is much higher, you need to understand the inner workings of the NHS if you are looking to apply for jobs in the UK. If you need more help with that, drop me a DM on Instagram. But again, remember guys, I don't think that NHS recruiters or employers are against recruiting international staff. There is generally a lack of jobs in the present market because of budget cuts, because of financial restraints, because of everything going on globally. However, there is nobody out there saying that international recruitment has stopped and they are not recruiting internationally trained healthcare professionals. Now, if you are interested in buying your first home in the UK as somebody living here, feel free to check out this video and I will see you in the next one.